Every day we make choices that shape our lives: what to eat, what to wear, and how we spend our time. But there's one choice that can truly make a difference in our community and our country. It's the choice to vote. Your voice matters. Your vote matters. And it's never been easier to make sure your voice is heard.
At vote.gov, you can register to vote in just a few easy steps. Whether you're a first-time voter or updating your registration, it's quick, secure, and straightforward. When you register to vote, you're taking an active role in our democracy. You're standing up for your beliefs and ensuring your opinions are counted.
And it's not just about national elections. It's about having a say in the decisions that affect our local communities, our future, and our country.
That's right. If you're not registered, take a moment today to visit vote.gov. It's simple, it's important, and it's your chance to make a difference.
Register to vote today at vote.gov, and let's show up and participate in this year's election. Your voice, your power, your future. Let's make it count.
Visit vote.gov now. It's time to take action. What's up, everybody? You've tuned in to Just Draws, the podcast that explores hot topics and various experiences among same-gender loving Black men. In each episode, we offer raw, vulnerable, and stripped-down perspectives to give voice to our frequently overlooked population. Here, we don't just scratch the surface, we dive deep, peeling back the layers of our experiences as well as heteronormative stereotypes. Let's get into this week's episode. All right, so Jeff gave us some really good clips from some episodes that we've done that were some of his favorites and some of his the ones he kind of wanted to revisit a little bit. And so I got a few too that I want to kind of share with everybody. And so one of the best episodes, or one of my favorite episodes that we did, was it was a 2-part episode called Just About Your Friends. Mm-hmm. And one of our co-hosts talked about this idea of men not being good at nurturing relationships like women. We were kind of talking about friendships within the LGBT community and specifically among gay men. And so, again, one of our co-hosts, Sean, said that men are not good at nurturing relationships. So let's listen to that clip.
Men are not good at nurturing relationships in the same way as women are really socialized to do. And we really are much more socialized to be singular individuals and really kind of rely on ourselves. I mean, for me, I have a good set of core close friends, but none of them at this point live close to me. I mean, when I'm at my place in Atlanta, I have a couple that are there, but for the most part, my closest friends live on the East Coast. And we'll get into this later, but it's like in Seattle, in terms of, male friends, I mean, I have good acquaintances, but nobody I'm really trying to hang out with. And like I said, I'll get into the other part about Seattle later, but even then it's like, it would be nice to have, like, I'd like, it doesn't need to be a whole lot, but like, 2, maybe 3 really close friends.
This kind of prompted me to kind of do a little bit of research. I love to research. For those of you that don't know, or those of you that are learning a little bit about me, I love to research. So sometimes when I'm listening to something, I always kind of go and find a second opinion or find more information about it. And so I thought about this idea of men and nurturing, or this idea of how men can be nurturing. And we're normally not, taught to be nurturing. That's more of a female or woman's thing. Men are taught to provide and protect and all of those things. But the nurturing and the empathy kind of comes from women. And so I found like an article in this on this website. It was a fatherhood website, and it talked about this idea of authentic nurturing, and that with men and authentic nurturing, that there's an action and then there's a response. And that resonated with me a little bit more because when I think about nurturing, sometimes nurturing doesn't necessarily mean that I am focused specifically on that person and I'm looking at that person in the face and that I'm rubbing their shoulder or I'm giving them all of these nuggets. That's part of it, but that I'm giving them, these nuggets and these jewels of wisdom that they're just going to be able to take and go from there. But when I'm dealing in friendships, that nurturing can be that there's some reason why I'm going to say what I'm going to say or do what I'm going to do. And then there's an action behind it. So the nurturing kind of shows up a little bit differently. What do you think about that?
So are you saying like you're not going to be the let me hold your hand, and I say this with
Right.
love, dear,
Yeah.
type of guy when it
Right.
comes to you and your nurturing?
Yeah, because you know that I'm always the one that is a lot more straightforward of the two of
Mhm.
us. Like you're a lot more clinical. I'm more like, nah, fuck that. This is what it is. And sometimes you'll tell me, that's not nice, and so
Hmm.
usually, and my usual response to that is,
Oh
but
well.
yeah, but I understand that. I get where you're coming from there. You're definitely, I think if we talked about nurturing between the both of us, like you're definitely a little bit more nurturing than me because there are ways that you say certain things
Mm.
that people will get that I don't, that I don't say it in that way. I'm just like, look, you need to get it. You need to understand
Yeah.
that's where it is.
Yeah, I'll say for me, I try to be a little bit more kumbaya, let's everybody all get along type of thing because I do want everyone to get along. But you know, saying it straight with no chaser,
Mm-hmm.
can be effective as well. People have to be receptive to that type of
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
nurturing
yeah,
though.
yeah.
And
And I've
and
learned
it's
that.
kind of
Yeah.
yeah, and it's kind of goes, I think, because we are Gen Xers
Mm-hmm.
and the parents that we were raised by, that is the type of nurturing that we got. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
get a lot of hand holding. It was just like, well, if you don't eat that, I don't know what you're gonna eat because I ain't cooking
Right,
nothing
because
else.
I ain't cooking nothing. Right,
Right.
and you
That's how
and the whole you'll eat it before it eats you kind of
right,
thing. And
right.
I still don't understand what the hell that means, but okay.
Sitting at that table like Christina and Mommy Darius with that
Mhm.
steak. Right.
And
So
Rudy when she didn't want to eat those Brussels sprouts.
right.
Hmm.
Exactly. So yeah, that's what we grew up on. So that's how you got it. If you ain't do what if you didn't eat it, oh well, you're just gonna be hungry.
Yeah.
Parents didn't care.
That's right. And then I ran into another couple of articles that had
Mm,
brought out a couple of good points for me that I didn't think about. And one of the articles from Greater Good, that was published at Berkeley, University of California at Berkeley, it
okay.
mentioned that having an intimate group of friends seems to be rare among men these days, and
Mm,
that according to a recent American survey, men have fewer social ties overall than they used to, with 27% of men saying that they had at least 6 close friends compared to 55% in 1990. And so there was this concept or this term about friendship recession that is likely affecting men's health and happiness. And I made a comment to you maybe about a year or so ago. And I mentioned to you, I said, what I came to realize is, and I moved to DMV area, Baltimore area back in 2021. And I mentioned to you, I said, what I've learned is that there are people here that I know, but I can't say that I have real friends here.
hmm
Like I have people that I kick it with, people that I'm associated with, people that I genuinely like and love. But I'm not sure if I would call those people like true friends of mine because all of my friends live somewhere else. There aren't people here yet that I've been like, I want to hang out with you, and that they're available to go hang out. If I lived in Atlanta, I'd be able to call you and say, hey, what are you up to? Let's go
Exactly.
so and so. And it wouldn't be a question about, all right, I'm not doing anything, let me go. Versus if I call someone here, everybody's busy. Everybody's
hmm
so busy. Everybody's got 10,000 things to do. And then if they have 10,000 things to do on that day or at that time, there's no other, what's the word? There's no other, like there's no, oh, well, you know what? I'm busy today. However, let me come up with an alternative
Right.
time for us to
Yeah.
hang out. So I'm just like, I'm kind of in that friendship recession a little bit.
Mhm.
Do you feel like that?
I don't necessarily feel like that. I get what you're saying. Um, but I my closest friends here are recent, as
Right.
far as friendships go. Like, you know, we did not grow up in the trenches. I've known them, less than I've known you. So, I worked very hard, I guess, to get these two friends that I was considered, my super close friends. John being one of them, one of our podcast guests.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like, do I want to have more friends? Yes, I would love to have, a couple of more guys that I can just be like, hey, let's go do this and do that. But I don't think that ever came to me, naturally. I had to put more work on that. And based on, what you said, the friendship recession, I totally get that, because that is the space where I was in before, like, we met. Because, when I was dating my ex from 12, 11 years ago, one of the things that I remember him telling me was that you are too old to have new friends. And I wasn't even 40 years old. So you're telling someone that's mid 30s that they can't generate any friends, and me not knowing any better was thinking like, well, damn, did I miss out my opportunity while I was at, going to undergrad, growing up in high school, that I just kind of piss away, being able to foster these friendships long term with other guys that were platonic and non-sexual. Asterisk. You can't have a sexual friendship, but that's not for everyone. Just want to put that out there before. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about right now.
It's not.
So, not having that, did I now need to spend, the rest of my days, 60 plus, hopefully, from that point, in my mid 30s, where I'm going to just be devoid of friends. And that's something that's just does not make any sense to my brain, or didn't make any sense to my brain then, outside of other things that I had going on in that relationship. But yeah, I feel like with men, we do have to put in way more effort, especially as gay men. Because I think on that podcast I mentioned, you have to determine, is this relationship with this man that I just met going to be platonic? Is it going to be, romantic? Is it going to be sexual? Is it going to be a combination of all three of those, or something completely different? Because we have to define those things, because we have to navigate, oh, this friend I just met, or this guy I just met, he's very attractive. He's got this, he's got that. He's got all of these qualities that I would like to have in a person to date.
Yeah.
And those things also can be good qualities in a friendship as well. But you have to, set that boundary for how that relationship is going to be. Is it going to be one of those options? And I think we kind of get into this where we like the person, and we like the way they look, and we're attracted to them, and they're physically attractive, sexually attractive to us too, that we want to try to experience that. And so we kind of think with our dicks first. And, that kind of makes it harder to navigate. Would this have just been better as a friendship? Because one of the guys that I dated, I kind of felt like, in hindsight, we probably would have been better as friends, and should have never turned it into the sexual thing. Just as, the guy that I didn't really felt like I had the spark with, but everything was cool. Everything was standard and everything. It just that I just never felt like there was this spark. And I was just kind of like going on with it. Great guy, awesome, did stuff all the time. I just kind of felt like we should have never crossed that line, and just kind of let it be platonic. And I think we probably would have still been friends today. So yeah, I feel like, that recession thing is very real, even more so for us gay men than even straight men.
Yeah. And I looked at this thing called the Keys to Friendship by Marisa Franco. We'll link the information in the description
Of course.
when we post this, but she has 6 kind of steps in order to create, to develop, to maintain or foster those sorts of friendships and relationships with other people, not necessarily just guys. But
Mm-hmm.
her 6 points were: take the initiative, increase your willingness to be vulnerable, let people see your authentic self, be productive with your anger when it's needed, act with generosity, and show affection. And I think some of those things are a little bit more difficult for guys, especially gay men, because of how gay men can perceive some of those things. The
Mm-hmm.
take the initiative might be looked at as you're,
Thirsty.
shooting a shot, right? You're thirsty
Yeah.
and you're
Mm-hmm.
shooting a shot. Okay. Or you're increase your willingness to be vulnerable. So when I meet someone, even if it is for a romantic relationship, I'm kind of the dude that's like, okay, I'm going to answer any questions that you may have, and I'm going to answer those questions pretty open and honestly. And I'm going to also kind of let you know what some of my hangups are in certain things, so that you understand coming into it that you're not blindsided a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that another friend of mine mentioned to me is that, well, maybe you're giving too much at the beginning, or maybe you're saying too much, you're talking too much about who you are, and you got to hold back on some things, which I find is I understand certain things. I understand
Mm-hmm.
holding back on certain things, but my issue is that if I'm really getting to know you, even if it is a friendship or if it's a relationship, like, I don't necessarily want to hold back, because again, I don't want you to be blindsided by something later. I want to say, hey, you know what, I mentioned this to you, but I don't think it's as involved as some people might think it is. Like, when I'm
Okay.
sharing things, it's like, hey, I am out of a relationship, and when they ask what happened, I'm like, okay, this is what it is. This is how it panned out, etc. Here's what I learned from it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that let people see your authentic self too is a difficult one, because sometimes when you show your authentic self, they're turned off, and maybe it's because they're being inauthentic. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then with gay men also, it's I can't see that as a friend. Like, I'm looking at you first sexually or romantically, and then from that, if I don't see you, like, the condition is, if I don't see you romantically or sexually, then I can see you as my friend.
Right. Because on the other side of the coin, it's like I said, you both have to be like agreeing that whatever your relationship is going to be, y'all have to be on the same, token of that. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you think it's going to be one thing and they think it's going to be something else, and you have this discordance, then it's going to be nothing. It's going to implode because y'all aren't agreeing on how y'all's relationship should go.
Mm-hmm.
And when the signals get kind of crossed, that's also odd to me, because if you approach me and I don't want to have a sexual or romantic dealing with your relationship with you, I'm not open to friendship too.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, because they want the sex or they want the boyfriend experience with you, if they can't have that, then they don't want your friendship. And it's kind of like, well, okay, well, I can't force you to be friendly with me or platonic with me if you don't want to.
Yeah.
And that can be a little bit disappointing, at least for me. When things don't kind of go that way, it's kind of like it can only be this and it can't be anything else.
Right. It's that all or nothing kind of thing. And
yeah, it's all or nothing. But in a way, I would kind of rather that than you to tell me, oh, I'm fine with that. And the whole time your ulterior motive is to get me naked, to get that experience that you want. And you're now just telling me what you think I want to hear from you, because in the end, you actually still want to have that relationship with me that you want.
Yeah. True. So again, we'll put some of those resources, those friendship kind of resources in the description.
Awesome.
As we post this. So moving on to my next flashback.
Okay.
from the vault. It was an episode we did at the top of the year called Just Catching Up. And so we were coming back from the holidays and we hadn't been recording, but we were just kind of catching up with each other about how our vacations went, since we were on kind of a little bit of a hiatus due to the holidays and hanging with family and everything. And so we get to a point where I'm speaking at that, and I'm catching everybody up on what's going on. So let's get into the clip of that.
All right. Hold on.
Break was pretty cool overall. I got a chance to really kind of be with my thoughts a good portion of the break. So it was decent. I did go out of town. I went to Texas for a couple of days and came back. And while I was here, I came back before Christmas. So when I came back, it was really just a chance for me to detox and relax. New Year's Eve was pretty much the same. I didn't do much of anything. I talked to a few people that were kind of in the area, but I really was thinking about things that I wanted to kind of do in the new year, stuff like that. I believe, no, we recorded before Christmas. So yeah, when I got back here, it was just really kind of setting up myself for the semester that's coming up. And so the time that I didn't get to spend with people necessarily at Christmas, I did get a chance to go down to Atlanta last week and hung out with Jeff all week. So that was cool to kind of get away and get a change of scenery. And there are more stories to come from that trip. So, but it was fun. It was a chance for me to, again, get away, detox before all of these meetings have started this week. And so overall, my break was decent. It wasn't what I expected it to be or what I wanted it to be, what I planned for it to be, but it turned out to be okay.
Good.
All
Good.
right.
Yeah.
So
I didn't want to. Yeah, I having been the visitee here in this situation, I didn't want to what I want to say spoil Darius's explanation or experience with that. So that's what it's like. I'm just gonna keep quiet on that part.
Well, I had two questions. I was going to say, one, what was in Texas? And two, are we going to hear these stories tonight?
So Brandon asks a very direct question that I dodged at that time. I told him that we wouldn't hear those stories tonight, but maybe later. So since we're flashbacking and we're pulling things out of the vault, I figured, you know what, let me go ahead and share this story. So what you didn't hear at the very top of the clip was I talked about how I had gone to Texas for Christmas and I had spent a couple of days in Texas for Christmas. So at the time I was dating a guy and I had gone to Texas to visit him and to spend Christmas with him. So the few days that I spent in Texas were actually supposed to have been about a week and maybe a couple of days. We hadn't seen each other. I was like, hey, I'm going to come and visit and spend some time with you, etc. And so I went to go.
Y'all had planned this for months, right?
We had planned this for months. It had been planned for months. We had been trying to see each other all year. It's a long distance relationship. So we had been trying to see each other all year, but things kept happening. There was a point where I was supposed to go visit him and he had a death in the family. And then he was supposed to come and visit me. And I'm not sure what happened with that. And then flights weren't lining up. And so finally it was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to come at Christmas. This is what it is. So we had planned it for months and I had planned to go out there. I bought Christmas gifts for him and he actually has two sons. So I bought gifts for everybody. So I flew out, I rented a car, drove to him, and the first day and a half was really good. Everything was good. We were getting along fine. Everything was great. And one thing that I am is I'm the type of person that when I am in your space, I don't want to be a bother, or I don't want to be a burden to your space. And if anything, I'm going to try to leave that space better than when I left it, or when I arrived. If that means, making sure that my stuff is out of the way, making sure that, if there's something that is needed in the house, that I can purchase that stuff, especially if I'm staying there for free.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that happened was he had just moved into this place. And so he still had things in boxes. He still had things that were just kind of all over the place. And he had been working all month. So he hadn't had time to really like break anything down and put everything up the way it was supposed to be. So by the time I got there before Christmas, there were things that I was seeing that weren't there, that there were things that it was like, oh, well, you know what? He doesn't have this, or he doesn't have that. I had a conversation with him and I said, is it okay if I get you some housewarming things? Because you're just moving here. And there were little things that I noticed, like there was a guitar that he had that I knew he wanted to kind of put on display. And so it was just kind of leaning up against the wall. It was on the floor, leaning up against the wall. So little things like, hey, let me get you a guitar stand for that so that can properly be on display. Let me get you some silverware, some extra silverware, because you had maybe like 2 pieces of silverware. And then if both of us ate, or 2 sets of silverware, both of us ate, like, we didn't have anything else to eat on because it was dirty, stuff like that. So it was little stuff like that. So I had noticed some things. And when we went out to the grocery store, the second day, or on the second day, I purchased a few things for the house, just little things that I thought would help make life easier for him. And he got a little bent out of shape about that, about me helping him and doing things around the house. And, I stayed with Jeff. When I stay with Jeff, there are things that I buy for wherever he's staying. If I see something that needs to be done, I will step up and do it, because it's like, hey, you are opening your space to me. You're opening your home to me. So let me help out. Let me do, something. Jeff, in his last place, Jeff had a whole guest room. And so I said, hey, Jeff, let me furnish this whole room so that you can use this for other people who might want to visit if I'm not here. But also when I'm here, everything is in here. So I purchased everything.
And we talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about it. Yes. Purchased everything for the space.
That was your room.
Yeah, right. My room, and so I purchased everything, took care of everything. And it was like, when I'm not there, you do whatever you need to in here, function it however you need to. And so it was the same thing for me. I have another best friend, Sean, who lives in North Carolina, and I do the same thing at his house. When I come to his house, if there's something that I see he's missing, or something that, is out of sorts, I'll try to help him out, because he works a lot as well. And so he got upset about it, and we had a conversation about it that night. And he basically said that the reason he felt that way was because he had been raised that when guests come, they're guests, that they don't do anything around the house. And it made him feel uncomfortable because I was doing things around the house. And I tried to explain to him that that wasn't my intent, to make him feel uncomfortable, but that's it's innate. It's in me. Like it's how I've always been. And I never, I didn't mean to upset him in that way, and that I would, try to back off from that.
Yeah, you weren't trying to overstep.
No, not at all. And so the next morning, I had the first day I had gotten there, I saw a spider in his place, and I killed the spider, took care of it, took it out, all of that. I had seen that next morning when I got up, he had left to go run some errands. And so I saw another spider in his house. So he lives in like a wooded area. So spiders could definitely be prevalent, because spiders are everywhere. And so I saw another spider in his place. And I didn't think about the conversation that we had. And I own that. I didn't think about the conversation that we had. But immediately I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay, this is the second one of these I've seen. And you have a 2-year-old son. I need to try to take care of this. So I had purchased the day before, I had purchased some what's called ortho defense. I don't know anybody that has a house. If you, it's called Ortho Max or something like that. And you can spray it around your house, and it kind of puts this invisible barrier around your house to keep bugs and things out. And so I had bought some of that, but I hadn't taken it out of the car that I had. So I said, oh, you know what? I can spray this around the house, and then at least maybe that will kind of curb some of this so that there's no issue. So I was spraying it around the house that morning before I left to go to the gym, and he saw me spraying it around the house, and he texted me, and he went from 0 to 100. He got upset because he was like, "You're doing too much. I told you I didn't like, people doing things around the house." And I said, "Listen," I was like, "I apologize." I said, "You're right. We had a conversation about it. I'm sorry. I won't, I did this because of." And he was inconsolable at that point. He was not trying to hear it. And he basically said to me that, "I think we need to find somewhere else for you to stay during the time that you're here." And so, having said that, I went back to the house. I did some research. I tried to find like an Airbnb in the area, and I found one, and I just gathered my things and I left the house. And so I checked into the Airbnb, and then he texted me, and he was like, "Oh, you're gone." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Because you told me that we should find somewhere else, or that I needed to find somewhere else to stay." And so he was still upset, and he was still talking about that. I apologize, and I kept apologizing to him for doing that, for trying to be helpful, and he just was not hearing it. He was like, "Well, the apology is the words, it's not the actions." And I was like, "Well, you haven't given me an opportunity to correct that. Like, I'm identifying where I was wrong in doing this after we had a conversation, but try to understand where I'm coming from here, and maybe offer me some grace in that." And so he wouldn't, he didn't. And so I asked him at one point if he wanted me to come back to the house, and he said no. He said, "And I thank you for coming to visit." And so at that point, I said, "Well, there's no point in me staying. There's no point in me being here, because I came to spend time with you. So
Right.
I'm not going to stay in this Airbnb for another umpteen days, or however many days it was, because I'd only been there about 48 hours. I was not going to stay in an Airbnb that long and be there wasting money when I could
During
just go back home."
Christmas.
Yeah, during Christmas, I'm just going to go back home. So I changed my flight, had to pay another almost $200 to change my flight to come back early. I did get some money back from the rental car because I didn't use it the entire time, but I did have to pay for the Airbnb for that night, which I wasn't expecting to do. And so I flew back home, and that was that. We are at a point now, we're still in communication with each other. It took a while, but he has apologized for the way he reacted and how he handled the situation. I don't know where things are going to go from this point. We are still cordial with each other. We still converse periodically, but I'm just not even sure. So that's what happened at Christmas in Texas. There was, some misunderstandings, some lack of communication, and one of the reasons why I didn't want to talk about it at that time, because I was still really hurt, like that it happened, and of course, with this being just draws and being vulnerable, I definitely was hurt. I was grieving, that loss.
Right.
And I was like, I can't talk about it right now. And one of the other reasons why I went to go see Jeff was to kind of get my mind off of all of that too. And I knew that if I was hanging out with him, that I would have an opportunity to not be sitting at home kind of wallowing in and replaying and running that tape back of everything that happened and how this was no more at that point.
Yeah, and it wasn't too long, I think after that that was mid-January, I think, when we recorded that episode, January 19th. So yeah, it wasn't even, a good 3 weeks, just about 3 weeks, when that fresh from that, situation. And, too, y'all have been talking for a while. So, there's that. And then there's going through the whole breakup, type of process too, so yeah, I could understand not wanting to get into detail, with the world,
right.
on that. So, but yeah, so we did answer Brandon's questions on what went down to the Texas.
Yes. So I wanted to talk about that. So last up, though, I want to talk
about.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Jeff.
Before we get into that, I did just want to say that I don't feel, because I know some people will probably listen to this and think that, oh, well, he's trying to, save this guy. And that wasn't it at all. It was just that when you Darius visit the space, not you as a general population, when he does things, it's never just because, oh, I lack this. It's just because he's seeing things from a different perspective that, you seeing something every day just doesn't really kind of like click, or doesn't really bother you or anything, or it's not going to like take away, or maybe, oh, like when you said he didn't have things, for example, like the guitar situation, if you've got something and you said, oh, well, I want to display that, and you never go down to Guitar Center or, Amazon and get the little hooks or the stand to put it up on, and then someone, goes and gets something to display this instrument on, that doesn't mean like, oh, you can't afford to do this or anything like that. It just means like, oh, you mentioned that you wanted this. I saw this. It was on sale, or I just want to get it to you. I'm just going to purchase this. Let me do this for you. Let me love on you, because I'm the type of person that I struggle with being loved on in that way. Just like, oh, you don't have to give me anything, or all this stuff, because I don't expect people to do things like that for me. So even when it happens, it's like, oh, but then at the same time, I'm also the person that will, oh, you mentioned that you liked a water bottle that I had. Oh, well, let me get one in your favorite color. And, here you go. It's like, oh, you got to get that for me. Well, I just wanted to do it, that type of deal. And, that's all it is.
Here's what's interesting too. I'll share this with the viewers. You and I have actually fallen out behind me wanting to love on you the same way that you loved on me. So that he's absolutely correct in that. And it was, I mean, like literally it was a Real Housewives moment where it was like, you know what? All right, bet I'm out then. Like, here's what it is. You do what you want to do with it. I'm out. And we were at a restaurant and I got up and left. But the next day we actually, we reconciled, like we went to brunch. We kept all of our same plans, everything that we were going to do. And we
ain't nothing changed, boo boo.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Ain't nothing, yeah, nothing changed. It was like, okay, this is what happened. And especially after, I don't know if it was that you kind of thought about what I was trying to do and you were like, okay, listen, it wasn't that. It was.
So because we're talking about this and I've never told you this, I'm going to tell you what was going on. Okay. So what the issue was, and so it was me. This is all me. So Darius had bought me some clothes, right? And I was simultaneously going through this process where on the inside, I was like, oh, I don't like the way I look in clothes. I've got too much shit. It was a combination of me trying to get rid of things and then me not even liking the way that I was looking clothes because I was putting on weight at the time. And it was me just like, oh, I don't want anyone to buy me anything because I feel fat. I'm not going to be able to wear this. That was kind of like what my brain was thinking. And so it was me rejecting that at the time. So it really was less about the clothes. It was less about you buying me something. It was more because I was dealing with something that I hadn't told anyone before. Is that I was struggling with some self-esteem and how I was physically appearing at that time. Like I wasn't, happy in my body at the time, and I didn't want anyone to buy me anything because I just felt like I tried to put this on, it's going to be disappointing. So. Yeah,
I did not know that. Yeah, did not know that. And had I known that, I probably would have tried to talk him down off of that ledge, because that's just what I do. But I was definitely trying to be thoughtful in the sense that, like, Jeff has a Pinterest board of things that he likes. I literally went to that pin that he shared with me, and I'm like, I'm not a contributor, but I can see what he likes. And so I went to that board and was like, okay, cool. I'm going to this could work, this could work, this could work. And it was all stuff that was like in his color scheme and like all of that. So I was thinking that I was doing something good, in that. And so when it kind of backfired in the moment, I was just like, oh, well, okay, I didn't mean to put it, I didn't mean for you to accept or receive it, that I was just trying to kind of one up you, because he had bought me something. I think did you buy me that Instapot? I think it was an Instapot that he bought me like that year. Yeah. And I was just like, whoa, like, okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Like I've only used that Instapot like 2 or 3 times, and I won't let a whole lot of people use it now. But, but I, it always reminds me of you. But I was just like, well, oh, wow, this is dope. And so I had some things in my mind that I wanted to get, but I just hadn't gotten anything yet. And so I said, all right, bet this is my opportunity to really be like, okay, look, he loved on me. I definitely want to love on him. So that was what it was. But I thank you for telling me that, like now. And I think that moving forward, if you're ever in that space, holla at me, say something to me about it. So then I can be like, okay, cool. Let me back off from that.
Yeah. That was a while ago, and how I navigate conflict and things now, even before when we were prepping, before we hit record, we talked about this, is that how I navigate things now is completely different from then. Yeah. So I would not have reacted like that in 2024, but back then that's the space that I was at. And, I was just at a low point, and that was before I had my life coach and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So,
and Jeff tends to be a little bit more emotional sometimes than I can be, which is an absolutely great thing, because sometimes he has to bring me back, because sometimes I'm so callous. I can get callous sometimes. And so he'll say something to me, and he may not think that I'm paying attention, but I'm like, yeah, okay, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I hear what's going on. And I usually run stuff by him. I usually say, okay, listen, this is what happened. Now, am I wrong for this? And then I'll argue with him back and forth about it a little bit. And then I'll go, okay, I hear you. So, yeah. All right. So lastly, though, the next clip that I want to bring in, my last clip, is from the episode that Sean and I did together, the duo, just the two of us, that we did about coming out too. So Brandon and Jeff did one, and I think you talked about you and Brandon's a little bit. And so I want to talk about one from me and Sean. So Sean talks about at one point in this idea of being emeritus. All right. And so we never got an opportunity to really like talk about that a little bit. So let's play the clip, and then let's have some conversation about it.
All right, cool.
And I have plenty of friends who are married and have been together for a very long time, but with kind of the hookup culture, app culture and stuff like that that's developed over the years, it just seemed like that wasn't the focus of a lot of people for a long time. And it's just nice to see that there's still some room for that.
Yeah. I think that, that little bit of hope is the stuff that we can all kind of hold on to, and hope that things get better, and that we all find, the people that we're supposed to find, well, except for you, because you don't want to find them.
Done. No, it's there.
Even if somebody's out there for you, like you ain't interested, like at all.
How is that going to be? No, it's like the couple of people that I should have been married to. It's like, I know who those people are. And
okay.
And that ain't happening.
Okay. That might warrant some backstory on a future episode, because the look on your face.
Oh, no, I know. Oh, yeah. No. I know the couple. Yeah, I know the couple that,
Oh, they're a couple. So the
no, they are not together. The couple of them.
Oh, the couple of them. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So listeners, stay tuned, because we might get a little bit more on that a little bit later. We might be able to delve more into this emeritus status that
it's going to stay where it is. But I recognize that again, there are people that you would expect everything to work and to click.
Mm-hmm.
But again, and it stems from kind of the struggles that many Black gay men have in terms of just really seeing a long-term healthy relationship.
Yeah, I think that healthy is what a lot of us are missing, is that the healthy part of that. And all the various definitions that come along with what people think a healthy relationship is. So,
Okay. So
All right.
he talked about this idea of emeritus. And so normally when you hear the term emeritus, you think about, or what it correlates to is a status that is bestowed upon you from some university or college for all of your work and all of your service to that specific institution. And so it usually happens after retirement. So you've retired from that institution, and then they bestow that status onto you. So it's almost like you're a life member or life faculty member of that specific institution. You may not teach there normal or teach there regularly anymore. You may even have some sort of series named after you, or you may come back and do special things, but you are a person that that institution holds in high regard. And so in terms of relationships, Sean is saying that he is, emeritus status, which in his case, it really kind of refers to this notion of, okay, I have done everything that I can and want to do within this space. And so now I have graduated to a level where I don't necessarily have to do those things anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So we tend to talk about healthy relationships and situations. And I know of a few people who are like this, but they've been so jilted and so, I'm just going to use the word
Jaded,
jilted,
cynical.
jilted, all the J's,
Yeah.
jumped on, whatever. So
Disgruntled.
disgruntled, whatever else
Just
you want to say.
done with it.
Undone, right? Just undone everything, all of that shit. So they've been all of these things, and they just are so turned off by the notion of love. They're so turned off by anything that involves partnership in a romantic sense. Maybe sexually they're still okay because they still need that itch scratched and they still need that nut busted, but as
If
far
I
as anything
remember,
love, it's
yeah,
not.
I think he may have said in that episode that he was good on sex too.
Yeah, not for him. Yeah, but I'm saying for some people who are in that same kind of, they're in that
But
same
yeah,
space. Yeah, because I know of a couple people who are they're still sexual with other people, but they
okay.
just do not want to be in a relationship. They're like, okay, we can fuck, we can suck, we can do all of these things, but I'm not going to be in a relationship with you, and I don't have a desire to be in a relationship with you. So
Mm.
do you think that this idea of emeritus status and the fact that healthy relationships sometimes are so few and far between within our community, do you think that it's just within like the Black community or our race, or in like just society as a whole?
I just off the top, I don't think that it's has anything to do necessarily with gay men, because I even though I don't or not in the circle or not around non-black gay men that often,
Mm-hmm.
I do kind of hang with a little bit of group that's a little bit more white leaning at times, just socially,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine. I don't feel that those guys are at a point where they've given up and they don't want no man no more,
Mm-hmm.
type of deal. I feel like a lot of black men do kind of feel that way, um, because I think for us, so many of us, especially us that are our age group, Gen X, you know, the elderly millennials or whatever they call those guys,
Right.
those guys, those men, those black men tend to kind of dictate and say, at least online, I'm set in my ways. I got my house. I don't want to live with no one. I'm good. I don't want anything but the sex and the physical.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like 40 48, 46-ish, which I believe around what we don't know what time Sean, determined that he was at this status. But, based on what we were thinking and then from the context, it probably did it around 45-ish, 44-ish.
Right,
And
right.
that's very young. That's
Yeah.
very young to
Because that's about
become,
where we are.
Yeah. I'm 48. And I don't feel that way.
Right.
But I just feel like that's too early on in life, even though it's at the midway point, to just be like, I'm done with this. I'm done with
Right.
dudes. I don't want to have sex. I don't want to have physical touch. I am totally done with romance and sex. I just can't imagine it.
Right.
And, as we talked, one of my love languages is physical touch and quality time.
Yeah.
So
You're top
me,
2, matter of fact.
Yeah, it's just conceptually, that's just hard for me to grasp that someone does not want to be touched, doesn't want to touch anyone else, doesn't want to have sex or be sexual with someone else. I don't get it. It's definitely enigma status. Emeritus status, okay.
But
Maybe enigma
absolutely.
Status, definitely.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't imagine it. But a lot of these guys are at this, hey, I'm taking my ball and going home stage where they don't want to have that anymore. They've just retired from that. I get it. Dudes do. We can bullshit a lot. We can lie a lot. We can cheat a lot. And if you want to have a relationship that fits a specific box and you can't get that box and you've done everything that you can do on your end, that you feel that you could do on your end, and things aren't working, then I can understand giving up. I do feel a lot of us have very high expectations of other people. I feel like, we've got these lists and everything has to be just so, and it's got to be, exact instead of that, again, I'm a 80-20.
Hold up, wait
person.
a minute.
You
We're
gotta
going
be
to stop it
tall.
here
You gotta
right
be
now.
dark
Yeah,
But check
you
back.
gotta
You
be
gotta
bald
have
head.
Darius's
Dick
flashback.
gotta be
muscles.
9 inches.
Yeah, you gotta have a big
Muscles. Here's
dick.
a preview.
You gotta love your mama.
Ass gotta be. Yep. Love your mama. All
You
of
gotta
that.
go to church.
Gotta have 6 figures.
6 figures.
And,
You gotta have your own house, your own car.
Yep.
It's gotta be this
Luxury
type of car. Yeah.
Gotta have that passport. You have to have all of these things, and you have, at the end of the day, the majority of men, black gay men, don't have those things. And you can watch social media, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, X, and see those guys and be guys in those relationships, but they're probably not going to be for you, and you're probably not going to be for them. And I'm not saying that you need to set your expectations. I don't think you need to. I need you to set your expectations to be realistic, and not just be like, oh, because there was I believe a gay dating coach had posted something the other day where the guy was like, I'm a doctor. I've got a 6-pack and I make this and I and the guy was just like, I'm still by myself. And I'm like, those things are great to have, but they're not a win button. That doesn't guarantee and entitle you to being in a relationship or having a man. They're great to have, but that's not going to be your
But
win.
I could see where he's coming from in that.
I definitely get it.
These are the things that
People say
are valued, within the community, and it's like, well, shit. Like, okay, if I can't, what is the level of value for each of these things? Like, okay, is this higher on the list than something else? Well, what about this? Well, what about that? And then this idea of negotiation is taking place, and it's like, should dating really be or have to be that where you have to do all of this negotiation and you have to do, other than the negotiation that you're doing within the, I'd like for us to be together, and here's the ways in which I need you to show up for me and the ways that I will show up for you, kind of thing. That's different. But the initial negotiation is wild.
Yeah. And it can be very tiring. So I can understand, having gone through that a couple of times, and he did say in the clip, there's a couple of people that he should have been married to. So I'm thinking, in my mind, if I'm at the point where I think I'm going to marry someone's, because these are two different people, that having a relationship that was that strong where you thought that was going to be the next step, I can imagine that it would be very crushing. internally to be like, hey, I had all this buildup. We should have been married and had our castle and, living it and doing it big. And it gets swept under the rug from you that can be kind of hard to recover from. If I'm imagining it the way that he may be thinking, and I could be completely off, but that's just how I'm perceiving that. And I've let other people or people that I've talked to that have heard that episode kind of felt similarly to me, was like, man, that's kind of young to just gotta give up, and it's a little bit of fun. Even it's frustrating to try to, find a guy, but there's a little bit of fun in that too. At least you can go out to eat. You don't have to eat by yourself or go to the play or, something.
You can enjoy somebody's company for just a little bit, or a few stolen moments.
Yeah.
So well, those were my three. I appreciate y'all for indulging those three. And definitely, if you have any questions about anything that either one of us said in this podcast, or want to add anything, we invite you to definitely contribute and talk back to us and let us know what you think. Again, if you have any questions for either one of us, which I feel like there would probably be a few more questions about my situation, but I could be wrong in that. But definitely
some juicy drama.
Yeah, definitely feel free to ask. I will share as much as I can. And like you said, I like the fact that you said earlier, if we go back to that I don't want to make him out to be the bad guy, and I definitely don't want to be the bad guy in that. So I just wanted to make sure that the way that I presented the story it is from my vantage point and all of that good stuff. But we will definitely put some resources as well in the description for a lot of different things, especially about the friendship and anything else, attachment style. We didn't really talk about that, but that was one thing that I did a lot of research into. And after that situation, I did get into therapy. So I have a therapist. And so there were some things that we were kind of working through in that as well. So we'll put some of that information down there for you.
Yeah, and we'll have links to the direct episodes, so you can go back and listen to the full episodes to get all the context as well.
Exactly.
So you can find us on, and we'll have this at the end of the trailer, but you can hit us up on X, you can hit us up on Twitter, formerly Twitter. And we are, of course, on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
Yeah, please like, share, subscribe. We have polls on Saturday that we like for you to participate in, or you get an opportunity to kind of talk back to us and add any sort of context, comments, criticisms that you want to our posts. So please do that as well.
Indeed. All right, so we're going to wrap up. Thanks again for listening to us here at Just Draws. And until next time,
we'll holla. Peace. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Now be sure to like, share, and follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and Spotify at Just Draws. That's JUSTDRAWZ. Until next time,